this demonstration, I want to show you some common geometric shapes and how they can be used to help describe objects in 3 dimensions for botanical drawing. The shapes that I've got here are a cone, a roughly spherical shape, a cup shape and some cylinders. And these shapes are very adaptable for botanical work because you will find many flowers have a shape similar to a cone or a cup. Fruits are often spherical or almost spherical, and most stems are cylindrical. So if we can understand how light falls on these shapes, these 3-dimensional shapes, that will help us to create botanical drawings in 3 dimensions which are convincing on the paper. So I'm going to go through these shapes in turn and show you where the light falls with a quick demonstration, and for this I'm just going to use some brush pens. This is something that could be done with paint or with pencil, but just to quickly get the shapes down on the paper, I'm going to use brush pens which cover a lot of area very quickly. Now you can divide the light falling on any shape into roughly 4 different colours, and let's begin with a cone. An upside down cone. Now notice on this upside down cone I have got a dotted line here just to remind us that this is a 3-dimensional object, and it stands on a circular base. So like the leaves that we were drawing recently, where we were interested in where does the bit that we can't see go, then we need to remember with these 3-dimensional shapes that there are parts that we can't see. So what we're trying to make here is a rounded conical shape upside down. Now if you look at the conical shape, you'll see that it's got a slightly dark area right down the left hand side, and the light, let's not forget, the light is coming from top left, so the light is coming in that direction. So you have this area down the left hand side which is got a little bit of shade in it, and then in the middle third of your cone there is an area of highlight. So let's leave that the white of the paper, and down the right hand side you've got another area which is a bit paler than the area in the middle. So let's now take a slightly darker pen and make this area here 1 stage darker, and also this part down here. And you see that just sort of comes across a tiny little bit, starts to curve across round the edge of the shape, and you've got a darker area just at the bottom. And then in this area here you've got the deepest shade, the darkest colour. But remembering that you've still got a paler bit down this side, and that is where the light, we call this reflected light, and that is where light is reflected from other surfaces behind and you get a little highlight. So in any 3-dimensional object you have a main area of highlight down here and reflected light across there. And already, this is very rough, but you can see that it is starting to get a three-dimensional appearance. So to finish that off, I'll just kind of smooth these areas in here. Like so. So we can break that down into 4 main areas. So we've got highlight, deepest shadow, slightly darker shadow here and here, and intermediate in this area and down the right hand side where you have the where you have the reflected light. Now let's look at the cone the other way up. The other way up, that could very easily be a flower, and similar rules apply, except this time we're looking into the cup of the cone. So right away, let's look at the inside of the cone, and because you've got your light coming in this direction, light hits the cone, the inside surface, somewhere around here, and that part is going to stay quite light. Across here, we're going to get very dark, and you get a dark area around there. So let's make that immediately darker with a darker pen. So that is our main sort of shadow area, and that will just kind of fade across, and already you can see that is starting to look like the inside of a cylinder, like you're looking down and you're creating a sense of depth right there. On the outside, very similar to what we saw with the cone up the other way, you have a bit of a shadow immediately down the left hand side, but very quickly becoming a highlight area. You have this area of reflected light across here. You have your main highlight in this area here, and always think about the highlight being in approximately 1/3, that third area of your shape, and then the shape starts to get a bit darker. It's got a bit of a curve on it, so we can darken that up, and then you've got your main deepest shadow coming down here, and that shadow goes right the length of the cone, down here, shape, and that is enough to suggest a three-dimensional cone. And if you had more time and you wanted to render this in a sort of highly finished way, you could make these very smooth and finished looking.